Rev up your engines!
You know, I always tell you, oh, here's the list price of these vehicles. Look how cheap. Look what they start at. Well, here's some actual transaction prices of vehicles. You're going to see how expensive they really are. For example, the GMC Sierra has the highest average transaction price, what people actually paid in the fourth quarter of 2022. The average GMC Sierra was $72,006. They added the 6, I guess. Over 72 grand is the average. They tell you, oh, they start at 40, whatever, blah, blah. The average transaction price is 72 grand. The Ford F-Series was $65,858. And that's hilarious with the Ford because the lowest base price is $29,000. Price that people actually paid in their transaction was over $65,000. So don't be fooled by these. Oh, look, here's what they cost. See what people actually paid. And these average transaction prices shocked the heck out of me. And close behind was almost $64,000 for the Rams. And they didn't even include the heavy-duty Rams. If they did, it would be even higher. BS on these here. Oh, look, this is where our vehicles are cost, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, then you find the average transaction price. In the case of Ford, goes from $29,000 for their lowest to the average one sold is about $66,000. So all I have to say is, be leery of add-ons and what they're trying to sell you on these trucks. I'm amazed at the money they're going for. It just shocks me. Lamb says, should I buy a pickup or an SUV? I'm deciding between a Forerunner or a Tacoma. Is the Forerunner better because it's made in Japan? I can get a Forerunner for MSRP, but I can get a Tacoma for under MSRP. All right, well. The problem is, you're talking about new, I'm assuming, right? All the Tacomas are now made in Mexico. I don't care. The quality is always lower in Mexico, right? But, of course, you're going to pay a heck of a lot more for a Forerunner than you are for a Tacoma. The Forerunners are so popular, and they last so long, everybody knows it, that people are paying way over stuff now because people know how good they are. And you got to decide, what do you want? Do you want an SUV or do you want a pickup truck? If you're talking about you're happy with a pickup truck and you get an extended cab, there's plenty of room in the back. My son's got a brand new Tacoma, 4-door. There's lots of room in the back. We were riding all over the place with adults, the kids, the grandkids, and us. So they got room too. Decide how much space you want and what you want to buy too, though, because there's a big difference between a Forerunner SUV and a Tacoma pickup truck. And again, what do you want to pay? You're going to pay less for the Tacoma. That's only common sense. They're both good vehicles, but the Tacoma is made in Mexico, where the Forerunner is made in Japan, where they still make them a heck of a lot better. Toyota Gonzalez says, should I buy used cars that were rentals? I've been looking for used Toyotas, but many were car rentals. The Carfax shows the company would not change the oil until every 10,000 miles. Will these still last? And what do you think about the maintenance? I would not buy a rental car for two main reasons. One, they don't maintain them that well. And you see, they only change the oil every 10,000 miles, which is a mistake. Then they'll burn oils that get aged. Sometimes not even that. I've rented cars that often the change oil light was on, and then they didn't change the oil, and then I drove the thing 2,500 miles on top of that. Who knows if they changed it? Who knows? You don't know. And the guys that are maintaining them, they're not real mechanics. It's just kids they hire, right? But the other thing is, they're rental cars. People rent cars. They generally drive the heck out of them. They hit curbs. They go flying through the air. People have rental cars. It's not theirs. They don't care. They generally beat the heck out of them. I personally would not buy a rental car. I've had some customers get okay luck with rental cars, but I've also had them where, they get them, the transmission goes out a couple of years later because people beat the heck out of it. And of course, at the rental car places, they don't service the transmissions. They just say, it's a lifetime fluid. You never have to touch it. Anything they don't have to touch, they're not going to touch. So they don't maintain them that well. People drive the heck out of them. I'm not a fan of buying a rental car. Emook Dog 7 says, am I being overcharged for my transmission rebuild? I got a 2006 Scion TC with 148,000 miles. It's grinding a little in second and third. It's a manual transmission. They want to charge me $2,700 to replace the synchronizer. I feel it's overpriced. The buddy got his automatic Mustang transmission rebuilt for $2,300. Please help. All right, here's the thing. Today, hardly anybody drives standard transmissions, manual transmissions, right? Hardly anybody. So the guys that fix them are few and far between because there's hardly any of them out there to be fixed. And unlike the olden days when transmissions are pretty simple, that is a very complex transmission. I took one apart once. Customer had one that was no good. They bought a used one. I put it in and I thought, what the heck? I'll take this old one apart. I was amazed at the complexity that's inside a modern standard transmission. So that's the price it costs to rebuild those things. Now, on the other hand, you're grinding a little in second and third. First car I had was an Opel. It grounded in second the whole time I had it. I sold it. The next guy had it and it ground. Sold it to another guy. It still ground in second gear, but it still worked. My advice is just drive the thing. And if it does go out, put in a used transmission. You can get used transmissions cheap enough, and you find one that was wrecked with lower mileage on it. It's still got a lot of life in it. I wouldn't spend that kind of money having it rebuilt. Truthfully, a lot of guys don't even know how to rebuild them correctly. You might spend all that money, it won't even be fixed right. And it's not that bad. Drive it, grinds a little. Then when it goes out, put in a junkyard transmission if you want. Toyota guy 1988 says, I have a 2014 Chevy Sonic, 130,000 miles. It starts fine cold, but when it's warm, it takes a long time to crank. Start doing it about 2 weeks. It's been sitting for about a year. Here, Toyota guy, what are you doing with a Chevy Sonic? Those things are terrible. It starts fine cold, right? So you know the cold start system, everything's working. But when it's hot, you got to crank it a long time. Generally, that means your fuel injectors are probably kind of clogged up, it's sat for a year, and they drip. Now, when you start a car cold, a cold engine needs extra fuel. So dripping injectors, it doesn't care. Oh, starts right up. But once the engine's warmed up, it runs leaner. It uses less fuel. So you got a hot engine, you turn it off, then you come back after eating lunch or something, you got to crank. Generally means it's starting to flood out because it's got too much fuel for a hot engine. So what you might do is have some fuel injector cleaner or have a mechanic professionally clean your injectors. They could just have gunk in them from it sitting for a year, and that makes total sense. Start there. That's the most obvious thing. They flood out. When they're hot, they can't take the extra fuel, but when they're cold, they can. Speaker Tweaker says, 2007 Saturn Ion 2.2 liter 5-speed. What are your thoughts? It's a 5-speed, so it's a standard transmission. The biggest problems with the Saturns were they had one of the crappiest electronic computer-controlled automatic transmissions ever made. It was a GM product. They called themselves Saturn. GM owned them. It was a GM product, right? And you're talking about one with a 5-speed. I've had customers with those. Bought them used for a couple grand or something, drove the heck out of them and had fun with them. You know, the company's bankrupt. There's no arguing that, but you can still get parts for a lot of the stuff. And since the main problem was the automatic transmission's crapping out, yours doesn't have an automatic transmission, therefore it isn't going to have the problems. They're not bad cars. You know, you don't overpay for a company that's bankrupt, but you can still get a good run-around life out of that thing. Jesus Maya says, Scotty, what German car manufacturer make the best engines overall, excluding all the electronic garbage and plastic? All right. Well, the funny thing is they always make pretty good engines. BMW makes some killer engines. Mercedes makes some killer engines. But they added all the plastic crap, the intake manifold, water pumps are plastic electronic stuff now on those. That it kind of negates the greatness of the actual engines themselves. I'd never buy any of them because of that. The old ones, when they had mechanical fuel injection systems, they were beasts, right? But they kept adding more electronics, more crap, and the engines are great as a basis, but they're in these highly complex cars where things break, they cost you a fortune to fix. Even though BMW and Mercedes make great engines, everything else around them is just endless money pit, and I'd never advise anybody to buy one. Kaiser says, Scotty, what would you choose? A Nissan Altima 2015 with 120,000 miles or Camry 2012 with 180? Well, I'd choose the Camry by far because Nissan was taken over by the French company, Renault. Now, they didn't screw up Nissan for a while, but that was 15 years after they took over, and it was some of the biggest piles of junk they ever made in 2015. I'm amazed it's still on the road. You were definitely going to go with a Camry with that, regardless of the mileage. They blow head gaskets. The Jatco transmissions in the Nissan Altimas blow up. Definitely you'd want to get a Camry in that. Now, of course, don't say, oh, you bought it and the Camry was a lemon. You can't just buy a Camry. You have to have a mechanic like me check it out to make sure it hasn't been wrecked, flooded, stolen, all kinds of stuff. But if a mechanic says, hey, it's a good car, definitely buy it. Legend says, I accidentally drove with my oil cap off. Did I do any damage? All right, well, the oil cap holds the oil, right? And that means oil vapor and oil is going to splash all over the place. Look under your hood. Clean all that excess oil off. You might not have damaged anything. Hopefully you didn't drive 300 or 400 miles or something, right? The damage would be done by oil getting on electronics. It will ruin electronics, especially hot engine oil. So clean it all off. If nothing happens, it didn't damage anything yet. Generally, oil takes a while to soak in and destroy things. Like you get oil on more rubber motor mounts. It's not going to eat them up right away. It's going to take months, if not years, for it to eat through all the rubber. So clean it all off. It's running okay now. Probably didn't do any damage at all. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.